Hey, Ba, if you're there, go ahead and say something on the chat. Hey, Ba, if you're there, go ahead and say something on the chat. Hey, Ba, if you're there, go ahead and say something on the chat. All right, so it's getting feedback, so I need to get my earbuds. Hold on. Hey, Alexis. Oh, jeez. All right. All right, guys. I really don't know what you guys are doing. However, all right, guys. I'm trying to mute this now. I'm trying to figure this all out. But it looks like some of you guys are watching. Some of you guys are dropping out. So this is the live feed. If you guys could spread this, I'm going to stay on this channel. Couple of things that you guys can spread around as this kind of begins is that I'm going to get interrupted. I think we should probably look at the Sarge notes as our focus. And also, I think we should refer to our APA right here. So that's what I'm going to be doing this whole time. Cool. Right on. No worries. I'll let people join, and we won't start this for a few minutes, kind of work out the bugs. It's kind of crazy because I'm talking and this thing's 15 seconds behind. I'm sure you guys have dealt with that. So this is the first time I've dealt with that. So this is all weird to me. So no worries. But once again, kind of spread the rumor. A couple things I want to say. I'll keep on repeating myself as you guys do that. And if one of you guys could say, oh, we got it and we understand under the live chat, because that's the only way I can communicate to you guys. But kind of spread the word that I'm going to get interrupted once. I might have to get out. Also that we should probably be looking at the Sarge notes, concept outline, kind of as our focus, and kind of use specific questions from that. Another thing about that is I don't think we should deal with the specifics of the issue. Sometimes you may get a little too specific. And then lastly, get the APA Achiever out, because I think that's going to really help us out. So, all right, cool. Thanks, Baha. Appreciate that. Again, I'll probably going to look at you for the most part to moderate things. So I'm going to be quiet though. And y'all, Baha, let me know when we're ready to go and we can rock and roll and do this thing. One thing else is I also have a power issue. I forgot the power cord at my classroom. So I think my girlfriend's power cord might work, and that's when I'm gonna get interrupted. I need to go ahead and pull her car in and stuff, so take care of her. So it might be like a 2-minute interruption. But I might lose power here. So I'm at 91% right now, but we may lose power. So Hey, Mustafa. Yeah, too much Star Wars stuff, kids. Use the Force, Chris. Oh, another thing is, I mean, I see Orlando's in there, so I guess this probably spread the word to Procopios. But right now, you guys should be like text messaging everybody as well. Like, even if you have numbers of kids that normally you don't talk to or normally part of the Google, I don't know how many times you guys have done this, the Google Stream or whatever. But remember, I told you the goal of what we're doing right now is to make sure everybody kind of gets what they need right now. This is the last day of cramming, so let's not try to compete. The competition's over. No more dream crushers. We all turn to dream crushers. Rainbows are going to fall out of the sky, and the pure will of AP students will charge my laptop for infinity and beyond. There. Boom. It's kind of weird too, because like things I would do in class that wouldn't be that big a deal, like wipe my mouth on the side of my shirt, now is being looked at by you guys, and that's weird. All right. Let's see if I can find my dog for you guys. I'm always talking about my dog. It's kind of fun. Miles, come here. Oh, he's out here. So this is La Jolla Living. This is my outside. You probably see my dog. That's my dog. This is my lime tree. That's my yard-ish. We're on patio. These are my Japanese honeysuckles. They're called Japanese honeysuckles. They're awesome. These are succulents. Yeah, I made that. No big deal. All right, that's enough of my house. I figured out that the background, yeah, he is cute. I know, I appreciate that. I figured out that the background being dark helps you with light. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be like on TED Talks or something pretty soon. All right. Yeah, I told you my dog is awesome. See, dogs, I mean, like owners are very similar to their dogs. Like he's good looking, he's handsome, he's athletic, could be a ninja. Yeah, and yeah. Thanks guys, appreciate that. Yeah, Japanese honeysuckle, super cool. All right, so we're gonna do this thing. It's 5:03. 23 people are watching. I say we start something because I only got so much time. I promised you guys 5 to 6, and all we've talked about is Japanese honeysuckles. Yeah, exactly, Vivian. We're not doing much. So let's go. Let's do it. When people join, just let them know. And you said everybody knows, so let everybody know, or retype in the chat or something. There's some. All right. So obviously, again, we're gonna go to APA. I mean, all this stuff is gonna be here pretty much. Okay, see now here's the chaos beginning. Baja, then Chris, and Baja. So I'm gonna defer to Baja because Baja kind of started this party. So we'll do that, and then Baja, you kind of try to communicate through the chat about how this is gonna go down. Or I'll just try to do them in order and choose when I want to choose, I guess. So economic problems that caused the French Revolution, chapter 10, French Revolution, rewind. So, I mean, social causes, political causes, I'm on page 166, then it goes to 167, and then 168, there we go, economic and financial causes. So, you know, first of all, before we get into it, we have to probably rewind it even a little bit further before then is, you know, most devastatingly was called the 7 Years' War, which is, I think, multiple wars. Again, we don't need to freak out too much about it, but I think there's like 4 different wars that make up the 7 Years' War. One of the wars is called, again, the French and Indian War in the United States. But these wars, and it's pretty much a colonial rivalry between France and England. So that's you gotta understand that, you know, even the American Revolution was theoretically a colonial rivalry based on France and England. So, you know, the 2 raging mercantilist powers, along with the 2 raging naval powers, again, French Navy is what saves the day in the American Revolution, saves our opportunity to get away from Britain. And so again, like, hey, synthesis time, kids who know synthesis, that's like a Cold War, right? Cold War is what's going on inside of the United States. We're having an American Revolution. We're having our own little fight between the British and trying to get them out. And suddenly now the French come in, the French supporting the rebels, and then we have the loyalists, and we have colonials versus the redcoats. And so the same things happen here. So anyways, long story short, I want to articulate the idea that you guys know a lot of history already to synthesize. You know, we don't need to talk about the present day. We don't need to go about Donald Trump. You guys have a lot of those. You guys start making those connections, and that's how you're going to do really, really well on Friday. But going back to the issue at hand, the economic and financial crises here, you know, it starts with those wars, these wars that are happening between England and France, and those wars put France into debt. We know that Louis XV is the heir of this debt. I mean, if Barack Obama was the heir of a debt crisis and a financial crisis, then you know, we have Louis the 16th, this young kid that comes into this economic problem. So because of that, they're just into debt. They're into wars, right? They're fighting wars. We know that wars are expensive. That puts our country in debt. Sounds similar to the United States currently. And as we look into France with these debt of wars because of these colonial powers and these colonial fights that were happening between France and England, we get into economic and financial crisis. So let's go and look at page 168 now. So economic and financial causes for the revolution were distinct but related. I don't know what I need to do here actually, other than it's right there. So I think, Baha, your question, I think, answered. I think what I didn't give is the background of 168. And if you read 168, I think it would be there. So I think this is like a moment where if you really care about the economic and financial causes of the French Revolution, then you should come back here and take a look at what I'm looking at on page 168, 169. And then you can come back to me and go, you know, hey, this guy Necker, what's his deal and why do I care? And again, the bigger question is, how does this, again, relate to the concept outline? So I'm going to click right now on the concept outline. I hope you have it and it's up. It should be probably bookmarked in your Chromebook by now, but I have it right here. So I'm going to go immediately to it. This is going to be probably under the Enlightenment, I'm assuming. European culture. I mean, you guys know this actually better than I do, unfortunately, which is not good. So can anybody, I'm going to have somebody else do that, and I'm going to move on to the kind of next question. So Baha, if you could have somebody try to figure out where this comes from in the Sarge notes. So that's, I mean, the concept outline, which is on sargenotes.com. So take a look at the concept outline, read 168, 169. I'm going to move on to the next question, and then give me a question about what you don't understand based off the concept outline and based off of the page 168, 169. So again, guys, we really need to focus on that concept outline. So go back to that. All right, so I'm gonna go on to the next question. And he says, what can I start off? Can I start off with what is neoclassicism? I don't know. I'm not going to do the arts right now, Chris. So I don't know. That's a Google search real quick for you. And that's another thing I was going to say. And there's a lot of little details that I want to stress. I think sometimes we need to err from being too specific in this Cram session. This is like a big time review. And I think saying the 7 Years' War, I think that's important ideas. I think saying more importantly, the idea of colonial. I think again, this test is not on terms, it's more on ideas. So it's understanding the word colonial rivalry between France and England and being able to give me examples on that. I think that's what's important. So neoclassicism is a little bit too specific. So if you could tie it back into the give me like a concept outline unit, like a 2.3, 2.4, 2.4, and it's a 1.4111. You guys know what I'm talking about. I will go ahead and check it out. All right, so cool. Yeah, good job for you, Kurdistan. We're volunteering at the hospital. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do the Google Doc. So I'm looking at Baja's. I don't know who Katsumi is, and yeah, I'll definitely take a coffee. I appreciate that. That'd be awesome. I usually like a caramel latte or caramel latte or caramel frap. That'd be nice. Thanks, guys. And let's not have like 50 of them around. Let's just, hey, why don't we just have one every single day? All right, so I'll wait for Baja to send me a link on my email for the Google Doc, and I'll look at find the next question, since it seems like you guys are going to be using that instead of the chat to go ahead and figure out the questions. Let me go back to the chat because I'm not there. Cool. Well, I'm done with that. Let's go. I'll talk to Delane while you guys go ahead and check it out. Oh, hey, Angie, how's it going? All right, so Adam Smith's natural law. I think you're talking about his idea of natural law in regards to supply and demand, which he kind of called the invisible hand, which he called the free market. So let's review all three of those ideas, because these are the type of questions that are awesome, Delane. That's a really good question. And if you know it, cool. Like go ignore me for a second, kind of listen to me, but ignore me and go find your next question and get ready for that Google Doc. So let's talk about those three tenets. So we have the idea of supply and demand. I'm pretty sure, and I hope you understand what supply and demand is. I know I haven't been in your class, and I know Procopio has definitely talked about multiple times, but you got to understand that as the supply of something goes up and the demand of it goes up and demand goes down, there's kind of these two factors are constantly moving, and sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, but that usually affects price. And what he was talking about was like the fact that Guild at this time, this is Adam Smith, he's an Enlightenment thinker, and he's reacting to mercantilism. We know that he is reacting to capitalism. This is a great compare and contrast, and you guys know that difference. And so what he's seeing is he's looking at these guilds, and these guilds are controlling the prices of things, how they're made. And he's like, you're interrupting the quality of the supply, the quantity of the supply, and the demand is always staying the same. You're not kind of listening to it. And so that's affecting the price. He's like, you need to let these variables and these free markets just let it go and let it do its thing. And you notice my hands, and I said let it be, and that's what it means, laissez-faire, hands off. So this action of naturally moving prices through supply and demand economics, which we see as early with the Black Plague, and we understand that as the Black Plague killed all the laborers, that the supply of laborers went down, but their demand stayed the same, so the price or the wages started going up. So we see this economic force this whole time, and this is what Adam Smith is talking about. And he says these three things are what needs to happen. These naturally need to occur. The problem is that governments, that guilds, later communism, socialism, Donald Trump would say the taxes that companies are forced to pay to fund our education systems and healthcare systems at certain points are too high and are limiting that. And that's our government putting our hands on and interfering things. Okay? So I am going to go ahead and I think everybody kind of gets those natural laws, and I hope you understand. So I'm going to Bajas. Orlando, Tuca, Sarah, and Orlando again. I'm going back to that Google Doc because, again, Baja's kind of the moderator of this. So I hope you guys understand why I'm going back on that, and hope you don't feel offended. So I'm going to check my email and go to see what's going on. There's going to be like 5 billion of these things. Oh, 5. just 4.9999 billion off. All right, 5. Oh, and yeah, everybody's going to go crazy now. The 100-year witchcraft scare. What is a must know for history? Okay, what do I know about witches? I know there's a full paragraph in the APA on there, and that's what I'll direct you to. Again, I wonder how it's related inside the inside whatchamacallit. I mean, this came from Angie. She said earlier that, can you talk about my witch thing? So I know she's always looking at the concept outline. So I don't know what it says in the concept outline. So if somebody could edit that doc question to the concept outline and like figure out specifically, that would help me while I go back and I kind of look at this. During this time, you know, the witch hunt happens in like it's happening probably in the 15 and 1600s. You know, at certain levels, the what's it called? The Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition would be kind of a witch hunt, right? I mean, they found anybody that was Jewish or of Muslim descent and forced them to convert or kill them. So the witch hunt is happening, though, during the height of the Reformation. And that is what is kind of a big issue at this time. So that's kind of what's going on. Awesome. So it's 92. It's a full paragraph. So this is that moment. Again, I think I did this with Bajas, and Angie, I hope you understand, or whoever asked this question on one, because it doesn't tell me now who's asking questions. Maybe you guys should put in parentheses who's asking the question so I can get an idea. However, it looks like that paragraph hopefully will cover it. If you give me a more specific question on concept outline, I think I just repeated myself. Sorry, it's kind of been a long day. I will go ahead and try to do my best to re-answer that question. All right, question number 2. So I'm going to take this since I'm allowed to, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight this one red and say, hey, come back to it and you guys give me more information. I am going to go ahead and strike this guy out. Oh, there is no strikeout. There is a strikeout, but I don't know where it is here. Maybe somebody can strike this out, like put the strikeout font on it, or the effect. You know, like bold, italic, underline. There's a strikeout on number 2, since we've talked about that. All right, effects of the Cold War. Now, again, I'm not looking at the YouTube stream whatsoever. This is taking my full. Maybe I should, hold on, give me a second. Let me put that on another thing so you see what's going on. Because I think, see, there's Angie talking to me about it because she wants to talk to me about it. And you guys are talking about it. And I'm not listening to you guys at all. All right, so let's go back. Give me a sec here. Let's see, Angie gets back. So I'm going to go back to the witchcraft thing because that was our first question. And Angie gave me some help. All right. Concept outline mentions it in the questions, but never any summary. Would we just have to know what happened? Yeah, I think it's, you know, I think it's more of a reaction to, like I said, this religious fever that is happening all over. You know, I mean, look at it, say, happening in 1720. So I would try to understand, number one, what was the causes? And I'm already reading it says first, and then I read a couple of the lines, it says second, and then it says third. So I think there's, and then it says finally. So I think you have 4 causes, there they are. I would know that they're causes. I know that you want to know it's mainly women, single women. They're largely accused, usually for personal benefit of other people. And it was a lot of superstition and religious fervor that was going crazy. So Angie, I don't know if I'd go much crazier than that. If you had like a long essay question, that's all you knew, I would be very happy with that. So I think hopefully that helps you out. All right, cool. Natural law, bam, strike that out or something. All right, effects of the Cold War. The effects of the Cold War. God, the Cold War ended peacefully, and not a Soviet Russian, excuse me, let's make it clear. Not a Russian was shot by an American wasn't shot by a Russian. We shot down some planes and captured some pilots, but we didn't do much more than that. Yeah, the effects of the Cold War, it's interesting. We're living in it. It's really hard to understand. I would say this, that the Cold War had divided the world. And this comes into Chris's kind of talk about yesterday about globalization. You know, the Cold War divided the world between a pretty much Eastern hemispheric communist Soviet Union, you know, sphere of influence, and American-led democratic capitalism sphere of influence. And largely, we know that trade was blocked. I mean, my goodness, Germany was divided into two separate countries, and there was a wall that divided its capital into two. So if you know the history, the division is very much anti-globalization. And so the effects of that is what we know now as globalization, a more integrated world, a world in which goods, ideas flow faster. Now, what's pretty funny, and it's kind of hard to think about this now because the way in which Russia's acting currently, if you were to talk to modern, you know, talk show people that are on the news, they would say that Russia's kind of acting in a Cold War. They're trying to bring their spheres of influence to really go on back and try to get Ukraine. They're trying to get Syria and their sphere of influence in the Middle East and make sure they capture their warm water port in Black Sea. I mean, this all sounds familiar. I see a question later about the Crimean War. But up about I think about 10 years ago, it's very interesting. Vladimir Putin, who has managed to be either the president or prime minister for the last, I think, 20-something years. By the way, it looks like I've gotten denied access to this document. So I'm going to keep on talking about the Cold War, but there's an issue with the Google Doc. But 10 years ago, Vladimir Putin actually went to NATO, the treaty organization that said, if Russia, you touch me, I will attack you. And it was pretty much all of Western Europe plus the United States. He actually went to NATO and said, I want to join NATO. Like, the alliance system that was created to basically make sure Russia didn't do anything, it was created to stop him. It was against him. He's like, yeah, I want to join that party too. So what we saw from 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and until roughly this couple of years, was what we call a globalized world. And a globalized world, that's what we're kind of living in. And that's, I think, the effect of the Cold War. And now we're living in a world in which nationalism is much in the rise. People not only in the United States, but also in Europe are just saying about the harm in which immigrants are bringing. I mean, that's against the free movement of people. They're talking about getting out of the EU. And if you looked at my screen across the EU, that means bringing back the currencies, which causes that nightmare and limiting the way in which people travel from country to country. So I think that kind of talks about the Cold War. I don't know if you have much about the effects of the Cold War because it's so much at the end of the history. So I think if you understood any of that, I think you're going to be doing it really, really well. All right. Russian Revolution, like what caused it and was its revolt? No, I'm not going to talk about that because I think we have an entire movie thing that I have that covers it perfectly. So look at the TAC, whoever did number 4, sorry not to be insulting, but on the TAC website, this is something that I would definitely listen to today. And that's a great thing to listen to tomorrow. I mean, that was I think the Russian Revolution 9 minutes. I remember having like a timeline. It had pictures. It was a really, really well done thing. And I think everything that says is what you need. So cool. All right. Can you explain this theory of relativity? No. Again, a little bit too specific for me. I apologize. E equals mc squared. Is that what it is? Yeah, I don't know. There are multiple dimensions. Energy cannot be destroyed nor created. Energy is mass times the speed of light squared. I'm like invoking the Omar, if you know him, who's in my class. It's like, yeah. All right, there it is, that one. I hope it's a too broad question, but how did the Crimean War lead to the breakdown of the concept of Europe? Yeah, it's kind of a broad question, but the answer is kind of simple. And like, if you want to look at the dirty details, you would have to go ahead and actually reread it. But I can tell you basically the concept of Europe, which was, as we know, the ES, Prussia, Russia, Austria. They also had formed the Holy Alliance during this time. Those are two words you should have known by now. You should know that these guys are the power players at Congress of Vienna. You should know it's during the age of Metternich, also known as Concert of Europe. So we also added Great Britain was always part of the party, and because these are the four powers that finally caused Napoleon to go down. And then France, upon its good behavior, was added as the fifth. During this time, the Crimean War leads to a breakdown of Europe because you have these five power players actually now turning against themselves. Austria, I think, takes a part of Russia at this time, and even though they're an alliance. Prussia, I think, parts of Austria at the time, even though they're an alliance. Russia gets a lot of stuff lost. France and Great Britain come in and support other people, but basically everybody gangs up on Russia. So, and also you have the rise, I believe, at this time of Italy in the form of Sicilia, Piedmont. I think they come in at the very end of this little Crimean War and go, hey, I'm here to party as well. I think there's multiple people that come in during that. I might be confusing that with another war, by the way. I might be doing that about the Italians come in. But I know that the Crimean War, I believe they're helping the Ottoman Turks during that time to get that warm water port, which is the issue today, that Vladimir Putin actually, according to National, illegally invaded. He crossed Ukraine and invaded it. These guys are just all going against each other. So if you want to see like who played who and when they played, I mean, yeah, refer to it. I'm sure it has a great job in the APA. However, the basic idea is these five great powers now started picking at each other, and most of them just actually ganged up on Russia. And because of that, there's just issues. And so basically the Concert of Europe are no longer working together. We know the Concert of Europe, and I would always argue it never worked together. It was basically Metternich and Austria leading the charge and everybody else waiting, and definitely Great Britain saying, I'm not going to do anything. I mean, they wanted to be in total isolation at the time and say, hey, you, the French Revolution, Napoleon, and all of this and all these revolutions, you guys can do your own thing. We're over here in the island. We're making stuff and partying and not having revolutions. We're industrializing and creating the best navy in the world. All right. I think that covers that one. All right, next one. Can you explain 20th century politics? 20th century is 1900 to 2000, theoretically. By the way, some people would actually say the 20th century was the shortest century. It's from 1945 to 1989. Or 1945 was 1914. Sorry, 1914 to 1989, which is World War I all the way into the Cold War. And they said that's what it is. So actually, there's that cool video on my TAP website that they do on the World War II deaths. And at the very end, it talks about the long peace that we've had. And it's pretty cool. If you want to look at the last 5-6 minutes, that's kind of interesting about 20th century politics as peace. I don't know what that question is in specific. Like that, I'd have to go back to the concept outline. So I don't know. All right. What is the Rococo art period? It lasted for 40 years between the commercial revolution and the rise of the middle class. Yeah, I know that Rococo is definitely like a bourgeoisie thing. It's like a definitely middle class merchant thing, and it's like super detailed. I mean, these are the ones that it almost looks like a I don't know, it almost looks like a card. God, I mean, it kind of looks like those Virgin Mary things that, the pictures that people wear. So let me go in and try to find Rococo for you. Actually, that might be a Google search. So, I mean, you guys all have computers. I'm going to Google Rococo and put it in there. I'm just going to Wikipedia this thing real quick. So, oh, see, it's late Baroque. So it's like super detailed. It's less goldy, but there it is. Like I just remember it almost feeling like Christmas cards. Like if you were to look at the paintings, so I'm scrolling down. I mean, you can see it, but that first painting on the left, it looks like a family, and it's super detailed, and it's very bright lights and all that stuff. So it has that first 3 paragraphs right there. You read that, you get an idea of the Rococo. So there it is. It's considered late Baroque. It's very gaudy. It's very detailed. One thing I learned about Baroque that I don't think I ever taught you guys in Italy. I don't know when I went on my trip, when I went to like Vienna and all these places during Thanksgiving break, but Rococo, like it looks symmetric, but one side will be completely different than the other. I mean, if you look at this first thing, like it kind of looks like these guys are balanced and there's, what we call symmetry and order, but it's actually offset. You can see that on the right-hand side of this little sculpture in the first picture that you'll see, There's like kind of curves that go a little bit higher than the girl on the left. If you were to look at the details in that second picture, the Rococo, the Basilica Adorabindum or whatever, like the leaves on the sides that you see that would be like kind of like in curtains and stuff, like they would look perfect, but always one would be shorter, one would have a couple more leaves, and not like one was exactly the same. So even though it's super detailed, it looked like kind of pattern-esque, there was actually no pattern. That's something I learned about Baroque, and that's late Baroque, so I'm sure in Rococo would have the same thing. Okay, and it's like obviously so detailed, rich, and oriented that it's related to like the mercantilist upper middle class in the commercial revolution. So you can kind of see that. I mean, take a look at those pictures. Those aren't poor people, and they certainly ain't the kings, queens, and popes, you know, or nor are they saints or gods, right? So it's kind of this middle class bourgeoisie. All right, cool. Age of Metternich and Congress of Vienna. Yeah, I mean, quickly, Metternich is a guy. I mean, they do a good job of this inside the APA, so I'll refer to that right now. But really, all you need to know is this is the age of conservatism, and they're just squashing out nationalism and any sense of liberalism because they don't want to deal with all of those wars. So I'll look at the APA, kind of refer you guys to a couple of things. But I don't know if there's a way that you can send like a survey or something, but I don't know if this is helping, if it's hurting. So if I don't want that saying helping, and then I lose all those questions on what's going on over there. But if you could say one thing on the chat and let me know if what we're doing is helping, or if we need to do something different. I don't know what else we would do different, but all right, Age of Metternich, Vienna. Okay, sorry. Got to get there. Don't know where it's at. Napoleonic era, no. Industrial, yes. Napoleonic era might come at the end. Nope. All right. 190 in the APA. Oh God. Hey, okay. Thanks, guys. Whoa, Tomka's in there? Hey, what's up, Nancy? It's progress. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. All right, let's not have a million people say yeah because that's okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So 190. I mean, there it is. So I'll say it, and again, maybe you want to look at those details, but it's basically this: Napoleon comes up and screws up all of Europe. It's divided. It's jacked up. So what are we gonna do to go ahead and piece this thing back together? I mean, it's basically Spain, Italy, France. We know the Dutch Netherlands, the Spanish Netherlands, Swiss always never get taken care of. I think I already said Italy. Those areas are completely owned by brothers or sisters, and they've reformatted territories and we've changed everything. So the question remains, hey, after we've taken care of this Napoleon guy, what are we going to do? Because all of these governments right now are being ruled by his brothers and sisters. And the response basically is this: hey, whatever happened before not only Napoleon, but before the French Revolution, because you'll notice the territory was set prior to the French Revolution, they're going to go back to. So they're just going, hey, let's act as if this guy Napoleon, this thing called the French Revolution, never existed. How was life before that? And the response is, it was a time of absolutism. It was a time of conservatism. It was a time in which people kind of paid respect to their leaders and didn't fight and certainly not beheading the king like they did in Louis XVI. So the word conservatism rise up. The word Edmund Burke pops up in my brain, as all of you guys know. Metternich, the father, another conservative actor, and what we're seeing also is the rise of nationalism. What's interesting, here's an interesting point I think that you guys probably never got, but I think you'll probably get now, is this: due to Napoleon's actions and due to him coming in and turning people into French culture, some people accepted it, but you guys know this: most people love who they are and love the culture that they already want to be. The last thing they want to do is start changing languages, change the way they start doing things. And so the way he kind of did is he kind of lit a fire on nationalism. This is a force that conservatism never really had to deal with. Yeah, people kind of thought about the Germans, but they kind of still pledge allegiance to the French king, to German prince, or whoever was protecting their butt at that day from being invaded or killed by the next door neighbor. So I think that kind of gives you kind of an idea of how Napoleon, when he comes over and starts doing these things, and people now of the Enlightenment, they've been given this opportunity. He kind of is given some Enlightenment ideals, as we know. He creates a Napoleonic code in which he infuses this into every country, in which people go, oh my God, I can go rise above my class. I mean, I can be like you. I can be a soldier who become a general, who become the leader, who can now become an emperor. I can rise through the ranks. So, I mean, I think there's some good points, but what he also does is when he comes in there, there's a group of people that go, what is this guy with his French and his French accent and his wine and this guy that's ruling me? And nationalism just goes boom. And that's something that the conservatives prior to the French Revolution and Napoleon especially never had to deal with. And that's an issue that not only that Metternich during the Congress of Vienna is going to have to deal with. He's going to have to deal with not only liberalism and people asking for the rights and natural laws and the right to vote and all these things that are just insanely nuts to him. But in addition, now you got another group of people going nationalism. And we know about those nationalists. You've seen it. I mean, the most extreme of them can be the Nazis. These people really care about what they're fighting for. And if you're Kurdish, you really understand what a nationalist is. All right, 30 Years War, I hate it. So I'm sorry. What do you need to know now? I don't know. Somebody let me know what you need to know about the 30 Years' War. Is it even in the concept outline? Let's hope it's not there. It's a religious war. Protestant, Lutherans, Catholics. Yeah, Lutherans are Protestants. Calvinists now. Most important thing, okay, the most important thing you do need to know, I mean, I don't know about the details other than that. It's like people using religion, politics, and economics and having a freaking world war inside of Germany. So what do we need to know? That's the cause. The effect, Germany gets blown apart. Probably a reason it takes forever for it to even get close to united whatsoever. In the previous exam, you'd have to know actually like the amount of people that died and stuff like that, but we don't need to know about that, thank goodness. So Germany is blown apart. The Holy Roman Emperor, aka Germany, this is the Holy Roman Emperor at this time, is so disunified now, you know, politically, economically, and socially and culturally, you know, with these religious fights. We know Germany always remained Catholic in the South. That's a problem that the Bismarck has to deal with the Catholic Center Party, right? So, you know, all of these kind of issues kind of happen. So let me get my train of thought. So we had the effects on that. So we have Germany getting blown up, not being able to unify until probably Bismarck shows up and does his thing. It's the last of the religious wars. That's the most important thing, I think, of the 30 Years' War. It ends in the Treaty of Westphalia. It no longer will Europe, and it probably enters an age of politique, not realpolitik, but the idea that, you know what, let's like make religious affairs a little bit more underneath our focus on what we need to do. It's still gonna be a focus. We got absolutism, right? We got Louis the 14th. He's rocking his thing, and he's taking one throne, one altar, one estate. Hey, everybody's gonna be Catholic, aka pledge allegiance to the Catholic Church. So the most important thing, I think, you know, is the Treaty of Westphalia. It ends these religious wars. No longer will Europe focus on these things. They're gonna keep on fighting. And there's always reasons to fight. There's always reasons to fight. So power, money, and territory, and resources, and making life easier for one country compared to another. However, it's no longer going to be religion as the sole motive. It may be a subordinate motive. There's multiple opportunities where that's going to happen, but it's not going to be the #1 focus. So I think that's what I think is usually taught. And so actually, if we were to read onto that on the 30 Years' War, that I would reread that Treaty of Westphalia part. You know, I've been helping oh, I just saw Rococo, by the way. 150, 151. 150, 151, you got Rococo. Hey, Mozart. Mozart was considered probably Rococo-ish. Right? Crazy, not really symmetrical notes, right? Half of you guys are probably laughing. I'm going crazy. What am I doing? Oh yeah, Treaty of Westphalia. Thank you, Baha, for highlighting things. That helps me. It's going to be religious wars. It's going to be way before the Enlightenment, way before absolutism. Religious wars. There we go, 80-something. You probably found it before I did. Peace of Westphalia, 97. There's that 22 to 33% population died. You have that one number. Europe underwent a military revolution. Oh, we started learning how to blow more people up faster. That's something I didn't know. I didn't know that we had a military revolution. Not going to fight We're not going to fight about religion anymore, but we're going to build bigger guns until we have a Moab. All right. The political and economic ideologies during the 20th century. I think whoever did 7 rewrote 11, obviously. So yeah, I keep these up there, Baha, because it's cool because it reminds me how to refer back to other things. So I think your question is basically Cold War. Hey, what were the political and economic ideologies? You already know. The United States was democratic capitalist. Even though we had the welfare program, so again, we're not completely capitalist, right? We had FDR had at this time had used Keynesian. Oh, yeah, let's use some big words. Keynesian economics, right? We know that in 1945, Keynesian economics, but for the most part, people are making their own economic decisions. This is not the totalitarian communism that Stalin and his counterparts much after would inject, nor the type that we see kind of currently in China. So we have this political, what are the political? We have the United States, political, democracy, economic, capitalism, versus the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which has communism as its economic ideology, and its political would be considered a totalitarian one-party state, total control. All right. So I'm not going to consider it a fascist state, but I'm going to consider it a totalitarian state, right? So I don't know. They spent a lot of money on military, but then we did too. So I guess might be considered a fascist state. Can you explain the 3 estates, please? Yeah, it's inside the APA, super quick. I don't know. I mean, to explain it would take me 4 seconds. There were 3 estates. The first estate, I don't know which one it was, but it's either the nobles or the clergy. They were a small percent of the population. Second estate was the clergy, nor the nobles or clergy. Third estate was everybody else. That was like 97% of the population. They didn't own most of the land because that was owned by lords in the 1% or the church, the second estate. But there were a lot of the population. Remember that a lot of times voting and rights were decided upon land if you had land, and that's what limited a lot of the poor to even have any voice inside of their government, or even to see a king, or that in those cases they called it nobility, right? You had to get noble, right? And that's why these people at this time are purchasing their nobility, so they're recognized about their different views. So those are the 3 estates, and I think more importantly, you probably want to understand how they met in the Estates General. And the Estates General, they constantly were voted, but they were constantly outvoted by the other 2 estates. Each estate got 1 vote, even though the population was completely disproportionate, obviously. So that's kind of one of the main issues that get into the French Revolution, is this idea that these people are not being represented. So, cool. Could the concept of Europe failing have synthesis with the aftermath of the Treaty of Versailles? They're making me think about things. Oh, here you guys with your synthesis stuff, huh? Interesting. This is why synthesis is so hard, because you really have to understand the details. This is why I understand why the College Board puts us in. They do little things to make sure they really identify if you really know your stuff. It gets people like me that kind of think they know their stuff, feel like they don't know their stuff. All right, what's the concept of Europe failing? It kind of has to. I mean, certain roles I perceive, I guess. Britain's isolationist at this time. Why? What happens during the in both cases they're isolationists. So in the concept of Europe, he's isolationist. In World War I, they're isolationists. They were isolationists until World War II, right? I mean, they didn't want to deal with anything with that. So yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. France, let's think about France. Militarily defeated in both cases. Okay, if you want to use the military aspect, yeah, there's a synthesis on there. Let's think about Germany. Well, Germany at this time was Prussian, Austria, and there was no Germany. So there's no Germany, can't really control that one. Italy, no Italy. Okay, so I mean that's where it kind of goes. So yeah and no. Could they have gone? And I think based off of what I just said, you kind of understand where I'm going, because whoever asked this question probably has a good idea of what the concept of Treaty of Versailles. So if that doesn't help you enough, rewrite that question under 18, and I'll go in and look at that. I don't know what. Oh, everybody's screaming over here and stuff. Okay, well, you guys are doing your chat thing. I think I'm going to keep on paying attention to, again, to this little Google Doc. Correct, Baha? Just under Nami, it's helping, say yes. So Machiavelli's apparent synthesis to yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Machiavelli's all right. Cool. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Machiavelli is definitely he's definitely well before his time, right? I mean, he's not even focused on religion; he's focusing on people, you know. So definitely, I would definitely have a complete synthesis. I mean, I don't know what other details I can give you on Machiavelli. You know, his thesis is written to these Florence princes, and these princes, I mean, it's basically to protect themselves from an invading army that's coming, and talks about how to basically unite and control the people. So, and in that way, you know, Bismarck at this time is trying ways to unite and control the people. So, yeah, I think if you were to give like a quick Wikipedia, if you want to do this Wikipedia on the prince, a little summary, and I think you have a good idea of realpolitik. I think you understand realpolitik and how Bismarck uses it and all those different ideas, but I don't think we have a better understanding of the prince. And I think if you were to, whoever did this again, I think this is kind of really high level. So this is not really meant for a cram session. This is supposed to help a lot of people. And I think this is not going to help like everybody. It might help, you know, some, but not all. And that's our goal, to try to help as many as possible right now. So I think if you look more details into the prince, I think you'll have a better idea of how that might synthesize more. Okay. Republicanism, yeah. What it is the idea that you should have your right should be expressed through voting, and that voting should be expressed through representative government. That's all it is. So you have the right to vote. Doesn't mean everybody has the right to vote. When they kind of determine those qualities, remember, not really until the late 1800s do all males get the right to suffrage. You know, with Prussia and the welfare state right before Bismarck, and I think with Frederick the Great, he's the one that expands this vote to a lot of people. It happens in, you know, the Charter, the Reform Act, and the Reform Bill start expanding the vote to more and more people in Great Britain. So 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, most men, you know, we know in 1914 most women get the right to vote. So it is just the idea, once again, so you get the right to vote. However they determine you get the right to vote, which could mean multiple things at multiple countries at multiple times, but you get the right to vote. And when you vote, you should be electing leaders, and those leaders should be competent, educated, professionals who are awesome people who are going to run the government, and that's what's going to make the best form of government. There you go. What was the pragmatic sanction with Maria Theresa? Pragmatic sanction was basically a doctrine that was made by her father. I believe I want to say Charles VI. Don't quote me on that. But he, I think, yeah, because I think Charles IV, right? Charles IV is the guy with Martin Luther and all that stuff. But Charles VI, he's the guy. I mean, Charles VI issues this, and what he is seeing is he's seeing through warfare and through marriage the way in which Habsburgs actually gained their land. He is seeing it slowly being taken and eaten away. And it's being divided, and after it gets divided, people start rebelling, and there's multiple ways. So, man, they have those funny like things, like the history of Japan. I bet you on the history of Austria. I bet you guys would have a good time, and I bet you Kai explained this a lot better than me. But during this time, he's losing land, and so he's like, okay, the only person heir left is gonna, or the person that's gonna be voted in is the emperor, but it's my daughter, it's gonna be my princess, is Maria Theresa, and he basically said. He says, you know what? I order that all of Europe, I decree that all of Europe recognize the sovereignty, the independence of Austria. That means don't invade me. And that our land should be no longer divided, and it should be ruled by this Habsburg, who is my daughter, Maria Theresa. It's basically a cry out, like, come on, please respect the fact that I'm a great power. I have a history here. Stop taking this and stop causing these issues. And so Frederick Prussia goes, no, I don't care. And he invades her and gets, I think, Silesia at this time, which is has a lot of people. I guess it's a nice place, maybe a great place to vacation one day. I don't know, never been there. But anyways, he gets this place. Later on, it'll be important for the Industrial Revolution. I think it's a great source of coal and a great source of timber. And it's kind of fought over a little bit. But he gets, I think, Silesia in this war of the Austrian succession, which kind of comes right after the Pragmatic Sanction. Okay. Yeah, definitely 17. Yeah, it's better be feared than loved. I'm a peace man. I don't own a gun. If I had a bunch of Nazis walking around, I'd try for the safety of my family, like millions of other people, unfortunately, make the wrong decision and save them. I mean, this gets into like Walking Dead. What will you do to do the right thing when you have a gun to your head? Who will you save? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, again, this is like high level stuff. So this is getting into like human behavior and social thought. And if this excites you, college will excite you as well. So there you go. Hopefully that one covered. Hopefully a few laughs. Yeah, I better get a lot of Starbucks and freaking. I don't know about Starbucks, actually. I mean, I like milkshakes. Why don't you guys give me some milkshakes instead? All right. 10 minutes theoretically. No. All right, we'll keep on going. I'm getting tired though, so there's people typing up on the other thing, and I feel bad if they're not getting access to this Baja. So if Christian and Delane aren't getting access to this, they should get access too. So make sure they get it. All right. So what was the Holy Alliance? Holy Alliance was done during the Concert of Europe. It is a separate alliance made by the EAs, Russia, Austria, and Prussia. I believe at this time they've already partitioned Poland, so they basically share borders. The last thing they want to do is war, and the last thing they want is nationalism or any signs of liberalism popping up, because guess what? They're kings and they're queens, and guess what? Last time we had people rising up and screaming for this, they beheaded a guy called Louis XVI in the French Revolution. These people are scared. They're confused. This is happening during the age of Metternich. This is happening in the Concert of Europe. This is happening during the age of conservatism. I mean, all of these words should kind of have kind of synonyms in your brain now of this period of time that we call from 1815, the fall of Napoleon, to 1848, the revolutions of 1848, which caused Metternich to flee. So this is that Holy Alliance. This Holy Alliance might go a little bit further than 1848, by the way. Remember, well, I guess not. I mean, it happened in Austria, right? Prussia really didn't have much, but Russia didn't have anything. You have to go through a full Russian Revolution for that to happen. But yeah, I guess Austria had its own thing. So probably that would have ended 1848. Probably ended that Holy Alliance, because that's when everything got set and kind of changed. Solemn 5 years plan. Whoever did this, I think I talk about it really. No, there's a really good video on it. Hit Pew's history, bit by bit. I don't know where it is, but it's on. I think it's on Inner Warriors. So yeah, it's on the Inner Warriors track. So check out the Inner Warriors track. Whoever did 19, I think that'll get to you. After you check it out, when you hear one of these that isn't helping you, then you can give me another question. 20, whoever did 20, can you give me one on the concept outline? Does he even show up? I think he shows up, but he has an example. If he doesn't show up an example, I don't know if you need to know. This guy definitely need to know last year, but I don't know about this year. So if it's the only concept outline, give me a little bit more of a heads up, and a little bit better question related to the concept outline. I'll be able to answer that for sure. Yeah, Lenin's new economic system. Yeah, I know two things. We'll have to go to the APA on this one. But the first thing you want to say, and they're like, you're getting all these like key terms. I know all of you guys are like jacked up on all these key terms that are relating in your brain to them. Like, if you were here earlier, colonial wars. How many viewers do we have, by the way? Oh, 32. That's pretty awesome. So wait, what's that? Oh, so the phrase, the key terms that I would memorize would be this: a compromise with capitalism. So Lenin made a compromise with capitalism. Here he thought about communism, about this dictatorship of the proletariat, that the workers were going to do this, and he was going to control them by saying this and do it like that. And oh my gosh, it's only a very small paragraph. on page 264. But that's the word I would want to say. So I'll go ahead and read this out loud since it's such a short paragraph. I don't have to go through a lot. But it's basically considered a compromise with capitalism. Stalin is going to undo this in his 5-year plan. So 19, if you're still there and still listening, whoever asked 19, can you explain Stalin's 5-year plans? Stalin's 5-year plans is an exact reversal of what Lenin's going to do. So we have, Lenin's the architect of the Bolshevik Revolution. He becomes its leader. He becomes very charismatic. He dies. And he answers this at the very kind of endish of his career before he dies, and Stalin's going to undo what Lenin did. So we'll take a look at that. As a result of the ravages of World War I, we know that Russia didn't do so well. It wasn't modernized, and everybody had like single shots, and they were dealing with like machine guns and barbed wire and stuff. Civil War, we know the Reds and the Whites fighting each other. And the resulting famine, because everybody's fighting war. Similar story, yeah? Syria. Hey, also, guys, the war in the Middle East, my goodness gracious, there's 5 billion things from the Arab Spring and revolutions. I mean, you kids with synthesis and you want to know, talk to your parents right now about what's going on in the Middle East. They probably have a better idea than probably most of these historians, and they'll wow them with all the stuff that you're saying. It's going to be crazy. So anyways, so the resulting famine, because of too much war, the Soviet economy stood at only a small fraction of its pre-war productivity. So it wasn't even doing as well as it was before the war. To jumpstart production, Lenin introduced the new economic policy in 1921, a strategic retreat and compromise with capitalism. There's the words, compromise with capitalism. I mean, there it is right there. Under the NEP, peasants, these later would be called kulaks, all right? Oh, well, there you go. Sorry, wow, it's like I memorized the dang book. It's right there in bold. Under the NEP, peasants were allowed to sell their grain themselves, and middlemen in towns and cities began exchanging goods for profits, what we call merchants. He's allowing the development of poor people to do what they want on farms and allowing merchants to sell that at whatever cost they want. This is capitalism, guys. People are starting to make their own decisions. This is, cottage industry. There we go, synthesis. See, putting out system. You guys have a lot of this synthesis already there. Just there it is. There it is. All right. So they began to exchange goods for profit. A new class of wealthy peasants, because these people are finally being able to sell what they want, called kulaks, arose in the countryside, often resented by the landless laborers. Other poor people who didn't have land, who weren't getting rich. Though the NEP did help to revive production, the Soviet economy by 1920 had still only returned to its pre-war level. Moreover, the policy provoked a split in the Politburo. Remember, the Politburo is this small group within the Communist Party that's basically making all decisions of the government. Between those who favored continuing the NEP and those who wished to move further toward communism. So there you go. That's the NEP. Obviously, what happens is Stalin arises and he moves it further to communism. And what happens as a result, going back to Stalin's 5-year plans, one of the most important effects of Stalin's 5-year plans is that the kulaks actually, because of this, they're forced to go ahead and only sell a certain time. Their actually land gets taken from them. They don't even have that. So, and they're said, all right, we'll pay you if you raise this amount of thing, this is what you need, you'll get paid for, which was not nearly as much as what they had. So they actually started burning their own stuff and killing their own cows and stuff, making sure that the food, when it go to the cities where all the workers were, that supposedly were more important than the peasants, because they need to go through the Industrial Revolution, according to Stalin. All right, that's new economic policy, and I kind of talked about 19 a little bit there. Sorry, a couple of interruptions from Procopio and also from my girlfriend. So.
All this has to stay around.
Hey, buddy.
All right, guys. Procopio's coming over, so. Hold on for a second. I told you one of these interruptions happened. So Procopio's coming, and so I kind of have to listen to him now, and we have to kind of talk this out. Sorry, I'm not picking my nose. I swear I was itching it. And I need to get my earbuds and I need to text, so just give me a you guys all just go get some water or something. Give me about a minute and a half, and I'll be ready. All right.
All right, I'm here, man.
Need some water too. Or a big milkshake. I'd really like a really big Chris asked me earlier, a chocolate Oreo milkshake with malt would be incredible. I don't even know if that's possible out there in this world of ours, but that's what I want. All right. Procopio's probably laughing at me.
I am.
Let's see here. That's what I want. Procopio.
Yeah.
So there's this feedback thing that's happening. Do you hear that?
Yes.
Let me see here. All right. Now, see, and it's. Oh, you know what? I think we need to mute. What do we need to mute? I think muting YouTube. So mute YouTube. The kids are probably laughing. They're like, dude, we know how to do some seconds, and we're going to watch these two, try to figure this out. All right. First thing, Baha, can you let me know if you can hear me? Because now I have my headphones in, so it should be picking up my mic on my earbuds. I know Procopio can hear me, but I don't know if you guys can hear us on the live stream. Procopio, you don't have an issue with that feed if you mute that. If you mute on YouTube, right?
I don't have any. You sound good too. I can see you're speaking in real time. There's no lag or anything.
Perfect. All right, awesome. We're figuring this out. How was your day?
Sweet. Just got done taking Dominic to basketball practice. Come back here. Got to do this for 30 minutes. Go pick him back up. Come back. Make some dinner.
Well, tell the kids what you want because they can hear you right now and they'll probably get it for you.
They're gonna bring it over.
I asked for milkshakes.
All right, awesome. All right. So how am I going to see the questions, brother?
Yeah, I know. I got you. Okay. Right. So Baha, I think we're dialed in. We can do this. So Baha, can you send the link to Procopio? So I'm assuming there's everybody there. So TP, if you check your mail, Baha's going to send you a link. I can do this. Excuse me.
That's all right. Whatever.
I'll send you the link. Yeah, it's already been done with you. Baha sent it to you.
All right. Let me look.
So there the kids are posting on it. And Baha, you better make sure everybody gets access to this. And Tony's kids and Procopio's kids. So they have a Google Doc and they're highlighting it in red when I'm done.
Oh, okay. Maybe Tuka sent it to me. I found the doc, but it's not from what's his face? Yeah, it's in red. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, do you actually have the YouTube link?
I don't have a link. No, I just see the doc number 1 through 30. Nami is helping. Yes, Nami, please tell Procopio about the Google Doc. I'm looking at it. That's where I'm looking at.
Please tell me. Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, wow, they're way down there. All right. So what I'm going to give you is the actual link to the YouTube because there. So I kind of have both looking. I'm paying attention there, but occasionally I'll look over there and they'll say something. So there you want to mute, or else you can get that feedback issue.
Does it matter? Am I just okay if I'm just on the doc?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah,
I'll just deal with the doc. I don't want to deal with all that stuff here. Let's just get rolling. I got about 30 minutes or so.
All right. So 22. Can you please explain fascism and how Mussolini used it? So, when I get to these points, Tony, I like refer to kind of the APA, and I kind of let them. I've been like say, here it is. Like I don't know if you can explain a little bit more about that. I know like black shirts, but I'll let you take over 22 and let you do your thing.
Awesome. Okay, so guys, how's it going? So Mussolini, he does kind of the same thing that Hitler does. In fact, Mussolini predates Hitler. Hitler's kind of looks up to him. Just kind of a side note. What he does is he uses extreme nationalism and that's kind of where him and Hitler kind of meet together. He also uses a private army that is, like Nami said, is the black shirts to quell any opposition. He arrests his opponents, throws them in jail, and in some cases he has them killed. That's kind of how he kind of gets ultimate power and becomes a fascist. Of course, he's going to censor the newspapers, so all the newspapers are going to be state run as well. So there is a vast amount of censorship. So I would say censorship. I would say secret police, private army, extreme nationalism, shunning of outsiders.
Cool. And then this is pretty awesome, Tony, because then while you did that, I just kind of went to the APA. So it says this guy's also, it says he only won a small percentage of parliamentary seats in the 1920 election, but Mussolini continued to gain adherents who ironically saw him as a champion of law and order against the threat from the left. So I think, World War I and the interwar years is this question between what's going to save us, socialism or totalitarianism, fascism. And even though at the very beginning, I mean, when you talk about can you explain fascism and how Mussolini used it, at the very beginning, he really doesn't have a lot of people. But as Mr. Procopio said, he uses fear, he intimidates, especially the left. He kind of gets the people who are quiet to start thinking that he's the guy that's going to do it, not these crazy left parties like the liberals and the socialists, and basically using all that intimidation, X's those guys out and says, hey, King, Victor Emmanuel II, give it to me. And he's got a huge army behind him. And what's Victor Emmanuel going to do now? So kind of add a little bit more to what Mr. Procopio said. So I think we got that one covered. And then Tony, if you want to go on 23.
23. Can you explain the Berlin blockade and the airlift? Yeah, absolutely. So in the wake of World War II, the victors, the Allies, the big three, that's Stalin, that's Churchill, that's the United States, and FDR, they basically divide up Eastern and Western Europe. So the Western Europe goes to France and England and the United States, and Eastern Europe goes to the Soviet Union. There is Germany is split in half as an occupation zone between the democratic countries in Western Germany, and then the communist countries in Eastern Germany. Also, Berlin is a city. It's the major city capital of Germany. It lies solely within the Soviet Union sphere. So if you were to look at a map, Berlin, the whole city itself, although it's divided between West Berlin, democratic capitalist, and East Berlin, communist dictatorship, it actually completely surrounded by East Germany. So it's totally within the sphere. It's like this little enclave. And one of the things that the Soviet Union tried to do, just kind of like a power play against the United States. If you guys were paying attention to the news recently, how the Russians kept flying their planes really close to Alaska just to flex their muscle. This is kind of a similar thing that's going on. They stop food. They don't allow food and supplies to get through to Western Europe. So in response to that, the Allies begin to fly planes into Western Europe or into Western Berlin and drop goods just to keep them going, to feed them with supplies and stuff. It's just called the Western. It's just kind of one of those flare-ups that could have gone to a hot war, but the Soviets they stood down and they allowed the supplies and foods to re-enter West Berlin at that point. So again, just an example of tensions between East and West.
I'm not going to say any more than that. I think I covered it. I think I covered it really, really well. All right. So aside from Hobbes, Locke, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Adams, are there any other important philosophers? I'd go back to concept outline. I mean, that's my first response. And then TP, go back to concept outline, kids, and find those examples. And you tell me the person that you don't see, that you don't understand, and put that person up there, I'm gonna keep on saying it. Reflect back to the concept outline. That's kind of our goal. And then if you want to respond.
No, I mean, that's awesome. That's exactly right. I'm on the concept outline right now, and two individuals that I definitely see that you might want to be referenced is Montesquieu and the Spirit of the Laws. Baron de Montesquieu, he's a philosopher. He was the guy who kind of supported the idea or advocated the idea of the separation of powers, the three branches that we use in the United States, and he thought that that was the best way to get away from having a dictatorship or an authoritarian ruler or an absolute ruler. Cesar Passeria, he wrote a book called On Crime and Punishment. He talks about his whole thing. Look, if you see anything on the test that talks that Cesar Passeria or anything like that, it's going to be dealing with how we should punish individuals and what way we should do that. So obviously this is the Enlightenment. So we're thinking that he probably doesn't favor like the guillotine. He probably doesn't favor corporal punishment. But I don't know a whole bunch about him, but he does talk about laws and things that should be done to either prevent crime, or once we have criminals in our arrested, what should we do with them? Those are two people.
So just to add to that, just add that a little bit more. So I kind of Wikipedia it, guys. And for Passeria, basically, he says this. He says, the whole book is actually a response to somebody else that says you should use torture every day. And so he wrote this book basically to counter argue that. And he says this. First of all, he's completely against the death penalty. Says we should not have the death penalty. He also says that we need to reform the criminal law system, probably to what we would call no cruel or unusual punishment today. And that when we do go ahead and try people and we give them some kind of a punishment, they should be rational. And again, that probably goes to our cruel and unusual type of. So I think for that, what Ms. Procopio said, I think that would pretty much cover it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I just saw something. It's not a question, and I apologize to my kids, but I think I should run it through for Nami's kids. And Nami, stop me if you guys spoke about this. It has to do with 2.3.2 in the same concept map area, right? Two links below Cesar Passeria, and it's the dissemination of Enlightenment culture and thought. And these are civic institutions that basically are societal institutions that are around during the time that are helping promoting and disseminating and passing through these ideas of the Enlightenment to the culture. So obviously, in something like salons that were hosted by women, that would be more upper middle class bourgeoisie talking about this. But when you get to coffee houses or you get to newspapers or periodical, these are things that most people, especially in an urban setting, would be literate enough to see. So these are how these ideas are spreading for the common people. Now, maybe not in the rural areas, but again, in an urban area, most people are being exposed to these ideas. Let's add a little synthesis to this. What's happening in the 20th century? How are we disseminating information to people so that more people know what's going on? Obviously, if you're the late 20th century, it's the internet. If you're the mid 20th century, it's television. Before that, it's radio. So you can, if you were to ever get like some sort of question about the dissemination of information, there's a good synthesis for you, right? And if you were to go backwards, back to the Renaissance, you're talking pamphlets, you're talking books. I mean, word of mouth, that's it. There's not really meetings per se going on where most people would be talking or listening to. So those are two ways you can synthesize that piece of information.
And then you can synthesize that too with the rise of education and also the rise of technology, right? I mean, it's not until people start becoming literate because of Luther's Reformation that pamphlets are going to have the power, and later newspapers, and then visuals because of the technology to mass produce the visuals now, not just in pamphlets, but now in political cartoons that would happen, let's say, during the French Revolution. And then later the technology will change, as Procopio said, to radio and TV. So I know, Norman, you were doing some side stuff. I kind of saw you in the chat, but I think Procopio hit something kind of really, really interesting there. And I haven't ever said that, so thanks for sharing that with our class about the idea of technology communication and how that is disseminating a lot of our thought. And I mean, look at it now, guys. I think, Facebook Live has more power than our TV. I mean, things are happening now on Facebook Live that the news doesn't even catch until later. We have to broadcast Facebook Live on the news to figure out what's going on around the world. So,
right on. No, I mean, I'll just say
point.
one more thing about this whole idea, and it goes back to the fascist question and individuals in the state. That was one of the ways that the fascists were able to gain power and popularity, is through the use of propaganda. And they were the first ones who really started utilizing the radio and really good, to art and stuff like that to kind of get their point of view across, and to try and persuade people that their nationalist ideas were the right ideas, the path that the state should take. So when you're talking about fascists, you also want to tie in that idea of propaganda and the use of the media to disseminate and to try to convince people that, or persuade people that their policies are the right for the country.
I was texting my girlfriend for a second there, Procopio, but wouldn't you argue that fascism wouldn't be successful if it wasn't for the radio and it wasn't
Absolutely agree.
All right, cool. Awesome. All right, Procopio, do you want from Denny's tomorrow? What do you want to drink?
I'm fine. No Denny's for me. I'll be good. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
I'm taking a chocolate milkshake. Thanks.
All right. Oh, nice.
We want one? They're asking.
Hell yeah, I want a milkshake.
All right, make it 2. Whoever said 25, 2 milkshakes, chocolate. All right, Nami, would we have to know anything from 1990 Europe to 2001 Europe, or no? APA timelines show them. APA timelines show them. What are you talking about on that?
Yeah. Yeah, so 1999 to 2000, I don't think there's anything in the concept outline that really discusses that late. The only thing I could possibly think would be those things about like the Green Party still exists, even though that's like a 1990s and 80s phenomenon. Maybe there'll be something from the Green Party and environmentalism. I could see there being something maybe in reference to terrorism in the early 2000s.
Terrorism.
But I don't see it anywhere. Gay and lesbian movements, perhaps, because that still comes through. That would globalization, 20th session. Those are and immigration. Those are the only like 4 things that I see that actually pertain to post 1999 world. But I think all of those also happened before, so I don't think I would worry too much about that.
Yeah, and I think we've heavily kind of gone over globalization too. Kind of made some parallels earlier, Procopio, to that too, some synthesis stuff. So cool. 27. How'd the revolution start? 1848. You want to go, Procopio? You want me to go?
Yeah. Do you want to take this one real quick?
Yeah, I'll take it. So I think first of all, during these times, you gotta follow the thing. When Paris sneezes, Europe catches a cold, right? And it's not France, it's Paris. Remember, it's all these issues are up in Paris, right? Going back to 198, it says the revolutions of 1848, and it gives you 3 reasons right there. Number 1, liberals. Number 2, nationalists. Number 3, the lives of the working class went really, really bad. There was a time called the Hungry 40s. We've noticed that food and we've noticed that bread has caused multiple revolutions. Again, synthesis being to the moment. Revolution, the French Revolution, bread prices, the lack of bread, right? Revolutions of 1848, bread, or the lack of it. And then we got, the Russian Revolution, peace, land, and bread, right? So we have these multiple revolutions that began with that, multiple revolutionaries would say once your stomach's hungry, that's when you start getting desperate. So we got those 3 things, and because of those 3 things, and also the fact that France kind of goes through another revolution in 1848 with Louis Philippe, who's the bourgeois king at this time. Everybody else gets kind of the trigger finger to go ahead and start their own revolution, thinking it's okay then. I'm sure Procopio is probably talking to Procopio's class about the Arab Spring, and I told you guys, if you really talk to your parents about what's going on over there, you guys have some really good synthesis, because the revolutions of 1848 have been linked to the Arab Spring and this kind of uprising that happened all through the Middle East. I don't know. Do you remember what that was, Procopio, if you're there?
What's that, buddy?
When the Arab Spring went down?
2012, 11, 13, 14,
something like that.
Yeah,
there you go, guys. So anyway, it's been real recent. So that's kind of the idea of the revolution. So those are those kind of 3 ideas. But once again, it really starts with France under these 3 consistent issues: the liberals, the food crisis, and also nationalism, as they kind of go under the wanes of these empires that have tried to put them together. Remember, Austria is considered an empire. It's trying to hold multi-ethnic people together. And we know that's not going to fit. That's not going to go because of the nationalist uprising. So hopefully that gives you guys the idea about 1848. And it sounds like TP, you want to add a little bit more?
Nope, sounds good.
Good, done.
All right.
Yeah,
Iron Law
go
and
for it.
Wages, I'll take that. Iron Law and Wages is attributed to a guy named David Ricardo, although there's somebody else who kind of talked a little more about it, but our AP says David Ricardo, so we'll go with that guy. It's essentially a theory. It kind of tags along with Malthus and his pessimistic look at population, how it might affect, negatively impact the world. And this is all created kind of during the time of industrialization. Basically, it is generally speaking, it's this. People are going to initially see a bump in wages, and because of this, they are going to have more kids, more money, more kids. We can have more kids, and that will increase the population to a point where the supply of the worker will be way higher than the demand of the workplace. So we have a problem of supply and demand, and because of that, that will ultimately drive wages all the way back down and create a situation where most workers are living and working in subsistence wages, very low wages that barely gets them by and barely gets them to survive. I would say that maybe this is. I don't, maybe look it up now, or kids, you can look it up. I think maybe Marx might have a big issue with this, and this might be something that he kind of would look to exploit.
Huh.
Hey, listen, the workers are going to be exploited. This might be a reaction from Marx to say, hey, listen, even though you might be doing okay today, look what might happen tomorrow, and so you need to be ready for that. So that's Iron Law Wages.
Gotcha. Now, the question is relation to corn laws. And I don't know who's coming into that and why. I mean, is it the idea that there's limited supply and trying to limit supply and demand or something like that? I don't. So
Corn laws is a mercantilist policy to prop up the aristocracy. So that is an artificial price on goods, just like maybe Ricardo says it's an artificial price will be put on wages. But other than that, I don't see the connection.
Yeah, gotcha. And I just Googled, guys, I put Marx and Iron Law Wages just to help see what happened. And is done by Malthus, actually. That was the person who came up with the idea of the Malthus. And I guess Karl Marx and Engels both critiqued it, and both were totally against this idea. So, cool. Go back to the doc. There it is. Garibaldi. The idea of imperialism. I'm guessing the idea of nationalism. 29. Procopio.
Maybe nationalism, yeah.
Yeah, I think he said nationalism. Also, what was the war that happened between northern and southern Italy? I don't know if there's specifically a war, right? They're just going from the south and they're raging up and meeting in between, correct? Is there actually a name of that? The War of Unification?
I'm just looking on the concept outline to make sure I see anything. I don't recall seeing anything about this on the concept outline. I don't really want to. I'm glad you guys are asking questions, but before you ask the question, double check that this has something to do with the concept outline from Sarge Notes. All you got to do is click the period and then click the link that's there. Yeah, I don't really see it in here at all. I see all I see is unification, transfer, and balance of power.
Yeah, I've told that a few times too. Mina says this is one of our questions. She says 4.1.2a.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That definitely helps. Yeah. And maybe you guys could add that as well. Maybe the number, at least the 4 point. So let me go to 4.4.
Mina goes, add that. It's easier.
Okay. World War, what is it? 4.1.2a.
4.12. I'm calling it with you.
Awesome. 0.2a. No, 4.1.2a is Wilsonian idealism.
Yeah, she said, oh, that's for Wilsonian idealism. Yeah. So I'm sure she'll figure it out, or Baha will put that. So whoever did that, we'll come back to it in a second once you guys give it. And so we'll come back to it. 30. What were the popular fronts of Spain and France?
Yeah, this is great. This is when we start getting into these. This period 4 is when I start losing it. They are socialist organizations, as far as I know.
Yeah, as I know them today too, the Popular Front
is actually a mix of different groups that form a populist group to go forward. So I would just say that these guys are consistently liberals. They're full of hardline communists. They're full of socialists. They're full of just normal liberals. They're full for advocates for feminism. I mean, it's just a band. It's just, I think, a word used for a party. And, you know, I've described my kids multiple times. This is kind of the problem with liberalism, is you have all these different people going to all these different places. So this was the word that they used to kind of unify them under one party to actually be against some of the fascists at this time. And that's what the Popular Fronts of Spain and France at this time are reacting to, is these groups of liberals that are having one banner, one name, one party to go against the fascist or conservative elements.
Yeah, and in this case, guys, when I just kind of doing a little quick search, these are, especially in the post-war era, the Popular Fronts were socialist organizations. They were thought of as maybe being extremist in terms of a democracy. They would have been somebody that was, hey, the socialists were the same in Nazi Germany as well. They didn't like them as well. They're considered extremist groups who are putting pressure on the governments, because the governments in the post-World War I and post-Great Depression era aren't able to provide for their people. There's not enough money. People are standing in stoop lines. So when you have this happen, you're going to have extremist groups start sprouting up. And these two are examples of socialist extremist groups that are putting pressure and getting in confrontation, at least political confrontation, with the democracies of Western Europe.
All right, guys. So I think it's pretty good coverage on what we know about that.
That was a mic drop there, bro.
Check one, check two. All right. Can you talk more in depth? Let me go and make sure we have viewers. Maybe we just talking to ourselves all day.
Maybe, yeah.
No, we got 27. All right. Can you talk more in depth about immigration and decolonization? APA 311 and 325 to 326. Is this linked up to a concept outline that we can be a little bit more focused on? Because, I mean, I'll take a look at that if you guys want me to. I mean, because I think in generality, I think these concepts may show up on the test. So I think it's good that we cover these things, but
I'm trying to.
It'd be kind of detailed into the concept outline. I think we'd be stoked.
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. World War I. I just want to see. So,
well, I'll start talking about what's in APA, Procopio, and then you can interrupt me when you find it kind of closer on the concept outline. So, you know, we know that right after World War I, you know, we still have colonialism, imperialism. You know, I saw a Puerto Rican president show up and say, "Hey, we're still a colony over here," and that's kind of true today. So, colonialism is a saying that after World War I and World War II, we know, especially prior to World War I, the entire world is nearly colonized, and that's why these are both world wars. So after World War II, the idea of owning people and using these people, you know, to exploit them or to dominate them politically, economically, culturally was, first of all, is kind of becoming a little bit too expensive. And so kind of the idea is to let these people kind of lead and have their own independence. So I'm seeing some words, and I'm just going to pop around on the bold words, guys, and help you understand the bold words, because that's obviously what's important. So one thing is that at World War II, there's kind of these mandates, and these mandates were basically where Britain was supposed to be kind of it's kind of like a social Darwinist idea, actually, kind of helping out the country kind of get itself up to independence, but largely it was kind of controlling them. And in this case, these mandates would eventually seek for their independence, and some of these mandates are what we call the Middle East today, like the countries in Iraq and stuff. So also Israel and Palestine, those would be two countries that were created after World War II from these mandates that eventually got their independence, and some issues have happened obviously between those. Pakistan was taken away from India, and that was actually done through a civil war that was quite brutal. So there's that. I'm not going to deal with the Low Countries. I got Great Britain. I think that's a great example of that. France, if you know anything about the Vietnam War and how it played in the Cold War, that's a huge word about decolonization. Remember that Ho Chi Minh fought for the United States against the Japanese, and he kind of gets independence, and we don't actually help him. We support France, our consistent allies, and we don't know who this Ho Chi Minh is, and we don't know where this Vietnam place is. For the most part, care less, but we support France, and that starts a fight between Ho Chi Minh and France, in which we come over and take over and support France, and France kind of actually walks out, and we kind of stay behind in the name of capitalism and democracy against communism and totalitarianship coming from China now at this time. So that's kind of what's happening in France, and that's kind of because of colonization. You said...
I can take immigration if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so immigration, guys. So what ends up happening here is that the population starts to stagnate in Europe in the 60s and the 70s. The people are having a little more affluence. They're having smaller nuclear families. They're living in suburbs, and because of this, there's an economic kind of upturn in the 60s. And because of this, European countries don't have the number of people to fill their workforce, so they look to their overseas mandates, like Nami was talking about, from the Middle East, or especially from Africa, even though those countries have kind of been left alone, and they start allowing guest workers to come into Europe and take on jobs on either guest worker visas or whatever permanent permanent visas. And it's not such a big problem or concern at the beginning. It's not until the 70s where the economy takes a downturn, and God, there ends up being people are in line for gas for 2-3 hours. There's a shortage of all supplies, food, water, and stuff, and the economy really takes a turn. And when this happens, people look around and go, "Wow, I don't have a job. What's going on?" It's these people from Africa, it's these people from the Middle East, it's these people from other parts of Southern Europe that are causing me not to have my job. It's very much the same picture, if you can paint, as fascist Nazi Germany. And so they start to have revolts against this immigration, and these were immigrants that they allowed in, and actually in many cases actually went out and sought to bring in to prop up their economies. So that's how immigration plays. If you're going to take immigration further towards the end of the 20th century, I was talking to a few kids in my class. What ends up happening is when you start having, when we're having these wars in Iraq and in the Middle East, and you start getting a large influx of people from the Middle East or from Afghanistan, and not all people, I know that Chaldeans would not, you would notice a Chaldean over somebody else just by the way they dress, but you're starting to have these people come in who don't look at all like we would normally think in terms of their dress or their actions or their language. I mean, at this point, we're pretty okay. Hispanic people have been living here forever. I mean, it was New Spain, after all, a couple hundred years ago. So that starts to have an issue with some people in Western Europe as far as their nationalist views. The other thing is in many cases, I don't want to speak, I'm going to speak general here. So this is very general, very general. There are sects of the Islamic religion in which the religion is the most important thing. The religion is the government, and that is the absolute complete antithesis of Western European and American culture. We're secular. And because of that, laws that are passed and things that happen in Western Europe and the United States, new immigrants go, "Hey, that's against my religion," or "Hey, I don't do that." And they aren't familiar with that. And so that starts to cause a backlash from natives in whatever country you might, France or Germany or England or the United States. So that's kind of a general kind of immigration from the 60s all the way up until the early 2000s about immigration and how it's affecting populations in Western Europe.
There we go. Mic check 2. All right, so I'm going to go for what is Wilsonian idealism. It's my boy. So it actually links to the next thing, APA Achiever, the 14 points. And it says, okay, we're the most important ones. So we're going to kind of hammer out 32 and 33 right now. So if you were to Google the 14 points and actually scroll down about halfway through, you kind of get to them. And I don't think you need to know all of them, obviously. There's some kind of ideas. It's kind of the idea of what it is. So I'll talk about a couple that you probably should know, and Procopio will let me know if there's a couple more that he thinks are important. But if you look at it, like, the ideas of the 14 points are super idealistic. You know what idealistic means? It means we live in like La La Land. It's not being realistic. And you're going to understand that everything that he's asking for right after World War I, nobody in Europe was willing or ready to do. So number one, First of all, we're not going to have any more of these secret treaties. Everybody's going to talk openly and freely to one another, and if we have issues, we're going to settle out like big boys and big girls by talking to one another, not by fighting war. Basically, no, we should always have open diplomacy. Never should we engage that. No matter if there's peace or war, we should allow our navies and our trade to travel all over the world anytime, anyway. They should never be targeted, and they should have absolutely free navigation of the seas. We should have equal trade and free trade amongst all people. We should have our arms and our guns brought down to the lowest levels humanly possible. We should give up some of your colonies, and we should adjust colonial claims. Then it goes into these territorial issues that you talk about. And his last point, which is his only point that he gets, is the League of Nations. So somebody asked, what is the most important? When I look at this, I don't really look at the territorial claims. I'm looking at the diplomacy, when these are points 1 through 5, and also point 14. You know, so also the other points, they all have to do with territories and colonies and what's happening as a result of World War I. He basically says, these are the 4 ideas, and also I want to create a League of Nations, and this is where we're going to talk it out. This is super idealistic, and so I hope that kind of helps you guys understand Wilsonian idealism, help you understand the 14 points, and give you an idea what's going on. Cool.
Awesome. Marx and Engels, Malthus and Ricardo are older by about, I don't know, 80 or 100 years, I think. So the first people are Ricardo and Malthus, and then Marx and Engels kind of come after them.
Mic check 3.
Sweet.
Control military. I think so.
Yes, monopolization of state force. Yes, monopolization. Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Monopolization of state force means one individual or one organization controls the military. That's probably, I would guess, something to do with fascism or authoritarianism or something like that.
Yeah, when they say state force outside the military, who else would that include? I mean, like FBI, secret agents, but those types of
secret
stuff,
police, secret police,
okay.
state force, anything like that. The state police, the Cheka in the Russia, Soviet Union, KGB, Rock San Diego, and Eastern Germany. All right, let's see. Aside from Machiavelli, what state concepts did Jean Bodin and Hugo Grotius make? I don't know the second guy, so I'll speak to Jean Bodin. Jean Bodin.
Dang, I was gonna do Bodin.
Okay, you do Bodin. I'll look up.
No, I'll figure it out. I'm just joking, dude. I got it.
Hugo, what's his name? Hugo.
I already know Bodin. I need to figure out who Grotius is.
Well, he's not even on the concept map, is he?
I don't know. I'm not looking at that.
Well, I mean, come on, man. Guys are killing us.
Give me a check over here.
Mic check. Come on, fellas.
Somebody.
Come on, boss. Who's moderating this mess?
Yes, he is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where they'd find a guy like that anyway. So I, like, honestly, yeah. Okay.
Hey, he laid the foundations of international law based on the natural law.
Who did Procopio? I think kids are confused.
Hugo Grotius.
Oh, you found it? I thought you didn't do Bodin.
Yeah, you can do Bodin. That's fine.
All right, you can do both of them because my girlfriend's here and I told the kids, all right, I have to like pull her car in. So I'll be back in like a minute.
All right, and then I'm going to have to go in about 5 or 6 minutes. All right, guys. Jean Bodin is a philosopher that basically talks about the sovereign being the person or the group or the organization who runs a state. So the sovereign doesn't have needs to get his authority through the fact that his laws and his will are the ones that have to be followed by the people in order for there to be any safe or secure state. He's the person you should associate with absolutism. So if you get like a essay on any absolute ruler, the foundations of his thought would basically be Jean Bodin, just like it would be Adam Smith for capitalism. Natural rights would be John Locke and stuff like that. So that's who that gentleman is. Anything else about that I want to talk about? Nope, I think that's it. How did Garibaldi use the idea of militarism to unite? Garibaldi and Cavour, remember Cavour's example of politique. They may draw up a plan to which Garibaldi's going to take his red shirts and sweep through the southern part of Italy and freeing up what is it, the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. I believe the Bourbons controlled that. The Bourbon family did, and they were going to kind of meet up in Rome or something like that and decide what to do with Rome after they helped to try and unify Italy. Once they got to Rome, they stopped, and something happened with the Pope, but I don't recall. So that's the best I can do for the militarism unification of Italy. Do it through military force. Okay. Any other questions? Concerns?
All right, TP. Sorry.
No worries, buddy. Baja's getting one. We are all out. All right. We are all out. That sounds good, like a plan.
That's awesome.
So that was an hour and 40 minutes. So I got to leave. I got to go pick up Dominic. Aside from unifying Germany, what else did Bismarck do? Realpolitik. You know, he's the example of realpolitik, of how he's using, he's changing alliances. He's working with the SPD one day. He's trying to drive them out the next. He's passing laws that support the workers. Remember the DBQ? That DBQ rules. I mean, it's basically everything you need to know about Bismarck. That's why DBQs are awesome, because they tell you everything. One of the things he's doing is socialists. You know, he's supporting the workers, not the Socialist Party, the SPD. He's trying to ban them at the same time that he's passing social welfare laws. He's doing this for a couple reasons. A, he wants the workers on his side because there's a lot of them, and he doesn't believe they're going to say anything. If the SDP party comes and goes, hey, socialists, workers of Germany, they're trying to drive us out. And the workers are going to go, what are you talking about? It's got freaking a pension, bro. What are you talking about? I got no problem with this guy. Furthermore, he understands that he needs the military, and most of these workers and stuff make up the military. So in order to keep the military on his side, he's got to pass laws that benefit the military people, which also are working people. So you have pensions and social securities. So now he's kind of doing this double thing, right? He's going against the Socialist Party, but he's supporting the socialists. So that's a great example of politique. If you were ever to get a question on politique, perhaps with Machiavelli, Henry IV, Elizabeth I, you can do some synthesis and bump it up and see how either Cavour in Italy and or Bismarck in Germany did it. And that would be good. There's another guy, but he's American. His name's Henry Kissinger. He's a realpolitik, but he's American, so let's leave him.
Yeah, and then I was also trying to think, you know, during this time, I mean, after he unifies, obviously Germany creates its empire and tries to do it. And so I was like, I mean, what's Germany's role inside of Africa? I'm like, oh my gosh, the Berlin Conference. So right inside of Germany is where they decide how much to divide of Africa. So besides him unifying the country, besides him dealing with internal issues and creating basically the first welfare state, he also helps not only Germany industrialize, but he also creates them into a German empire where they actually invaded Africa and start creating their first colonies. You know, they made during that time. So another thing that they did.
Awesome. Last one for me and I'm out. Chartists are an organization that was in England in the mid-18th century who advocated for universal male suffrage. While they did not actually, while they were an organization, they actually dissolved. But before they dissolved, they actually never even got to see universal male suffrage. It actually happens 10 or 15 years later. So that's kind of what they advocate for. Last thing before I get out of here, I'll drop it and go, is this. Think of major concepts or ideas tonight. Take just another hour or two, take a concept like individualism and synthesize that out. Where does individualism come from? Good. Where do you see it in the age of absolutism? Where do you see it in the age of exploration? Where do you see it in, I don't know, imperialism, if you see it? So try to get those try to pick 4, 5, or 6 of the major ideas, and individualism is one of them, right? If you go to the concept map and you just read through the topics, you'll see the word individual like 3 or 4 times. So you know that idea of the individual and the state is important. So use that, so in case you come across something that you can use as synthesis in your essays, that's both on your LEQs and on your DBQs. Remember, with the LEQs, guys, there are 4 different types of LEQs. Mr. Nami Matsu and myself will talk about this tomorrow in class before we have a little bit of fun. Nami, can you think of any major themes besides individualism that we can use to kind of go across?
Centralization. I mean, that's the
awesome.
first half. I think period 1 and period 2 is all about, are we going to be these mini little countries, or are we going to unify under a nationalist belief? And, you know, obviously, I mean, you could extend into period 3 with the extent of nationalism coming up so much higher. So I would say localization, centralization with a twinge of nationalism could cover all 3 periods for sure. And obviously, it also kind of results into World War I and World War II being nationalist tensions that are happening. So now I guess we could go all the way to period 4.
Awesome.
You know, as far as localization and centralization, that'd be a good one too.
Another one I'm thinking of is women and women's rights, from Christian de Pizan in the Renaissance all the way up to Simone Bolivar, or whatever her name is, with the is she the Now Lady, National Organization of Women or something, but she's a feminist in the 1960s. So there's a long thread there that you can talk about. Also remember, guys, that you can go sideways. You don't have to go north and south, that is ahead in time and back in time. You can go sideways. So when I say, I did this with my class today, I said, hey, listen, Adam Smith, right? We talked about Adam Smith, but then I just gave him some words. So I said, John Locke. Is he a representation of Adam Smith? And the answer is absolutely. They're both talking about freedom. They're both talking about the free market economy. It's the individual's right in an economic capitalist system to go out and make his money and either succeed or not without government interference, or with very little government interference. And John Locke would subscribe to the same exact thing. You have natural rights. As long as you're not breaking any laws or rules, the government shouldn't be clamping down on individuals for what they do. You have the freedom to do that. So think of those concepts that you can go as synthesis. You can go to a different genre. You can go from economics into politics, or politics into society, or something like that. All right, guys, I got to go get my brother. Hope I helped. If not, I apologize. I will see you guys tomorrow. Nami, thanks for everything. I appreciate it.
No worries, bro.
Peace out.
All right, later. Thanks, TP. Appreciate it. Yeah, and guys, just like one more thing, I'm actually go out too, because I got 14% left on my battery, like I had told you. So anyway, just to give you a heads up on what's going on, you know, another idea that we can think of is secularism. You know, the secularism is an idea that goes not only with humanism, but it starts also with the Enlightenment, and goes, I mean, also scientific into the scientific revolution, Enlightenment. It's what is the role of church and the role of religion in everyday affairs. So I definitely say secularism is something that kind of goes all the way, I'd say, into the Newtonian universe, where we're questioning, you know, what is the universe, and how this universe was created, which brings in some, you know, questions and some very much religious beliefs. So I think you have that. All right. All right. A lot of buys and thank yous. I get a milkshake tomorrow. I'm stoked. My girlfriend just laughed at me. So you guys, thanks for organizing this, Baja. I think this is really helpful. We got to 39 questions. I'm tired, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, and I'm done. So good luck, guys. I think keep on having these conversations like, you know, Mr. Procopio and I did. I think the more you guys have these conversations, I'm seeing on your guys' chat how everybody's like kind of like bumping on like, yeah, this, but not too radical like that. I keep it up like that. So continue what you're doing. If you guys can make these little chats, you know, with only 4 or 5 people of your friends, I think that's super cool. So good luck. See you tomorrow. Last night to studies tonight. All right, I'm closing this thing out. Later, Ba. Later, everybody. Bye.